The Lowest Bidder by John Ruskin. It's unwise to pay too much, but it's worse to pay too little. When you pay too much, you lose a little money, that's all. When you pay too little, you sometimes lose everything, because the thing you bought was incapable of doing the job it was bought to do. The common law of business balance prohibits paying a little and getting a lot. It can't be done. If you deal with the lowest bidder, it is well to add something for the risk you run. And if you do that, you will have enough to pay for something better.
Now, if this feels like timeless wisdom, both personally and professionally, I believe it is. And the person who wrote that, John Ruskin, he was an author, an economist, and probably some other things. He passed away in the year 1900. And I wanted to start off this episode thinking about the lowest bidder. And if we agree we shouldn't buy everything in life based on the lowest price, and we're willing to pay a little bit more for something better, how do we articulate that? Because we as leaders must understand the value that we are providing. And people we know in business and in their personal life will pay more for something better. So how do we talk about that? So today we're going to dive into one of the most overused and least understood words in business: value. Every executive claims they deliver value. Every salesperson sure as hell says they deliver value. Every website for every company says they deliver value. However, I have learned when you ask leaders to define value specifically, how customers experience it, how it gets communicated, and why customers are willing to pay more for it, the conversation gets murky quickly. So today we're going to unpack a powerful framework that I cannot believe it took me so long to stumble across. It's one of these concepts I cannot believe is not covered in high school, let alone college. This framework comes to us from the Harvard Business Review and Bain and Company, and it is called the elements of value. And we're going to translate it directly into the world of construction, building materials, and leadership. In today's episode, we'll discuss why so many companies get trapped competing on price, why customers often buy for reasons executives underestimate, and how the best leaders create value that competitors simply cannot match. Let's dive in. Welcome, my friend, to the Construction Leadership Podcast, where we help construction executives lead high-performing teams that finish on time and under budget without all the firefighting and babysitting, so you can lead with focus and control. I am your host, Bradley Hartmann. So let me start with a guilty admission. I might as well just come out and say it, because on this podcast and our lumber and building material specific sales podcast, The Craft of LBM Sales, I close each one of these episodes. So to date, somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 some episodes, I have said, you, my friend, are owed nothing. Deliver value first. It's a good little tagline. But one executive took it a completely different way. He said, can we dive into value specifically? What do you mean by that? When you say deliver value first, what value exactly? And he said, because I don't think we know. And he went on to tell me the story about reaching out and talking to many of their best customers. And he was asking a very simple question as the CEO of this organization: why do you buy from us? And what he found was there were several different reasons. And his customers were using words and phrases and terms that his company and he himself would never use. And naturally, he thought that was interesting. So he posed that question to me. And of course, this kind of knocked me on my rear end. And I said, I need to figure this out. So I went searching, and it didn't take me too long to stumble across this value pyramid from Bain and Company that started with an article in Harvard Business Review. And I believe this is extremely relevant today because as the market has softened and competition has increased, the vast majority of firms in the construction space are competing on price, and they're competing on the same elements of value as everyone else. And to some degree, there's been a race to the bottom. So by understanding these different elements of value and understanding there is a value pyramid that is similar in nature to what you may have learned in high school about Maslow's hierarchy of need, the higher you go up the value pyramid, the harder you are to replace. So imagine for me for a moment, you are looking at a triangle and there are 5 different levels in it. And if we start at the bottom, we have something called table stakes. Then you move up to functional value. Then you move up to the ease of doing business value. Then you have individual value near the top, but not at the top. And then at the very tip top, you have inspirational value. So again, from bottom to top, table stakes, functional value, ease of doing business value, individual value, and inspirational value. Now, at the base of the pyramid, you have table stakes, and you know what these are. This is pricing that is acceptable. It is in the ballpark. You're meeting specifications. You are not violating any sort of regulatory compliance, and you have decent ethical standards. And part of the problem lies right here. When we think about meeting spec, having price that is reasonable, and being good people, there's a lot of organizations in the construction industry that think these table stakes are some form of differentiation. And by the very definition, table stakes, man, this is just what everyone is expecting. It's not even considered value. So when I hear companies brag about being really responsive when we answer the phone, or we deliver on time, or we've been around for 88 years, or we carry quality products, well, yeah, people expect them. And when customers expect that, when they're table stakes, they're sure as hell not going to pay a premium for what they assume should already be there. And naturally, when we as leaders and whoever's doing your selling, whether they're business development professionals or they're outside sales reps or whatever you call the people that try to very intentionally every day be persuasive and influential to bring in new money, if we are talking about all those things, well, that's part of the issue. No one's going to pay a premium for things that they believe are table stakes. And what I've observed is that most companies are going to talk products or deliverables. Meanwhile, high performers understand the value specifically, and they articulate, and they name this value that these products and these outcomes create. And one of the critical insights that came out from Bain and company in doing this research into the B2B elements of value is that customers say they value cost reduction most, but the loyalty is actually driven by other things. Things like expertise and confidence and risk reduction. So while a customer or a developer or a builder might say, hey, I need the best price, what they might actually reward if they believed it and you had proof in it would be reduced callbacks and fewer surprises and smoother scheduling and fewer RFIs and some company that consistently makes them look smart. And given all that we have learned about ourselves in the construction community over the last decade, and certainly what we have felt collectively more comfortable talking about, mental health over the last several years, in construction, reducing anxiety may be more valuable than reducing price. However, we rarely hear it articulated in that way. So above table stakes, we have functional value, and this is improving their top line, reducing costs, product quality, helping companies scale. All of those things are expected. And I'm not going to derail this entire episode here, but I think I could, because here at functional value lies innovation. And what they're arguing here is at this functional level of value, the lowest level of value, just slightly above table stakes, is innovation. Customers are expecting us to innovate new products and improve them over time and not simply maintain the status quo. And I certainly would understand why people would be surprised that innovation is at the functional level, just above table stakes, when innovation is really hard. And I can understand this because I could certainly make that argument. However, let's not derail this whole thing. We're going to move to the second level of value, so table stakes at the base, functional value above that, and then we come to ease of doing business value. And this meaty section of the pyramid here, the ease of doing business value, has 21 of the total elements of value. How many total elements of value are there that are worth understanding and considering? A total of 40. So this ease of doing business, this is the gold mine where we can really think about how we deliver these specific elements of value. And yes, it would be nice to continue up this pyramid into individual value and inspirational value. I believe this is where we can make the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time by focusing on the ease of doing business and articulating and providing proof for how we deliver these things in a differentiated way. Now, there are 21 of these elements of value. I'm not going to run through every one of them. They are grouped together in a broader category they call value domains. And then the broadest category, again, functional value, ease of doing business value, individual value, and inspirational value. Those are all value categories. Now, there are 5 value domains of which the 21 elements of value are broken up. We have operational and strategic. Then we have productivity, access, and relationship. And if you are in a place where you can download this actual graphic to take a look exactly on how these are broken out, you can go to our show notes and download it directly from there. But some construction-specific examples within the ease of doing business value may be proactive communication, accurate paperwork, fast problem resolution, super clean handoffs, organized job site support, and consistency. The article does everything but come out and say this. Most companies underestimate how exhausting construction already is for customers. So chaos reduction is value. Reliability is value. Clarity is value. And this confirms in very specific ways what we often talk about, that our effort every single day is to help people make, find, and save money, also to make them look smart. So while make, find, and save money do exist at the functional and ease of doing business value, making them look smart and improving their reputation and helping them with growth and development, these are personal elements of value that lie further north in the individual value category. So as we continue north into individual value and inspirational value, what I found most helpful here is this provided vocabulary to things that we either thought we were doing, but might not have been successful in doing it, or when we talked to our customers, they cited these reasons as unique points of value delivered to us, yet we never defined them that way. And what I'm talking about here is reputational assurance or reputational improvement, or at the individual level, career advancement, or helping companies improve their own identity, their understanding about themselves, or even helping shape the vision for the future. These are all massive buying drivers and incredible elements of value that lie high on the pyramid of value, yet these are things we rarely say out loud. And that's the important point here. There's always things that we say, there are things that we think and don't say, and there are things that we cannot say. And as a former purchasing manager, now that many years have passed, I can tell you this. I bought from certain people and companies because they helped me avoid embarrassment, or they made me look competent internally to my bosses, or they helped me hit my bonus targets, or they reduced the political risk that somebody would get mad at me if something bad happened. And this is a really strong reminder is that businesses don't buy things. They don't sign contracts. They don't partner. People inside these businesses do that. So while it's not easy, we as leaders need to understand that the best construction brands create a feeling of trust, confidence, certainty, and emotional safety. And it's easy to look outside our industry all the time. We can look at Apple in technology, or we can look at John Deere in agriculture, or hell, we can look at Caterpillar within the construction industry. We look at these brands and we feel something positive. So as you go to the show notes and download this Elements of Value Pyramid, or you can just Google B2B Value Pyramid and you will go to this interactive website provided by Bain. What this is going to show you is that the higher you move up the pyramid, the harder you are to copy, the less likely you are to be substituted for, the less price sensitive customers become to collaborating with you, and the more relationship-based the conversation becomes. So here are 5 questions you as a leader should do next, and you can ask yourself and ask your team after visiting the website or downloading this value pyramid. The first question is, where are we truly differentiated? We have proof that others around us cannot do what we do. The second question is, what value do customers actually experience? And this may or may not be surprising. Most companies, and up until recently, ours, the one that I own, the one that my name is on, we often don't actually ask our customers why they buy and try to elicit the specific reasons they buy from us and how they articulate the value they receive. And that leads to the third question. Which value do customers recognize most clearly? Number 4, which forms of value are hardest for competitors to copy? And number 5, are we creating value we are failing to capture economically? And this goes back to an idea from my mentor, Rich Horwath, who's a strategy guru. He often talks about creating value, delivering value, but capturing that value in additional margin. And often in our industry, we create massive forms of value. We deliver that literally and figuratively, but we often don't capture it. We allow someone else to, and most of the time that is the customer. They get a lot more, but they don't actually pay for it. And the reason these 5 questions are useful is because here's the truth. If executive leaders only talk about product and price and even outcome, I will say your company is vulnerable. We need to get very specific with the forms of value that we consistently deliver and ensure that we are capturing those, not only in understanding the words that come out of our customers' mouths, but also in margin. So we did a little exercise recently. We have this group called the Sales Performance Analytics. Many companies get together, we anonymize the data, we share it, and we try to apply some Moneyball thinking to how we make money in our construction industry. So we're entering the 4th year, and I asked 4 of our returning customers, specifically, what sort of value do we provide? So one of the first ones we heard was innovation. They said we are thinking differently, we help them think differently. And as I mentioned before, innovation is at not table stakes, the lowest section of the pyramid, one level above in functional value. So that was good to hear, although that is a lower level of value. We also heard simplification when it comes to profitability, when it comes to cost to serve customers, when it comes to growing sales, top line and bottom line. We heard people say there's 100 different things to think about. By collaborating, it allows us to focus on the most essential so we can simplify this. And simplification is one of the elements of value in the operational domain in the ease of doing business category. The other thing we heard is that we are consistently providing new information to help them understand what's happening in the market and what they should do with their sales team. So information is an element of value in productivity and also expertise. They said they feel like partnering with me, my team, and of course, the other businesses that are in it. They feel like they're among really smart people who are experts at what we do collectively. So that was in the relationship domain, again, in the ease of doing business value. I was also glad to hear a few things that came from one level above that. This is the individual value category. We heard that it was fun. Every year we have an annual conference and we deliberately try to have some fun, good restaurants, nice hotels, and a tour of a decidedly non-lumberyard. And we do. We try to have a lot of fun with that. So that got recognized, and that is in the personal domain of individual value. And one individual said they feel like they are growing. They are getting smarter. They're getting encouraged to read new things, to become more of an intellectual leader within their company. And that was growth and development in the personal value domain. And then almost everyone said by joining us in the Sales Performance Analytics group that this has expanded their network. That has helped their career. And that is just below the very top inspirational value in the individual value category. So hearing this directly from our customers who are being candid allowed us to change our marketing to make sure when we talk about value, it's consistent with what they say. So we're talking innovation and simplification and delivering new information and expertise, having fun while helping them grow and develop in their career, both intellectually as well as through network expansion. These are all phrases and terms that, yes, we were aware of, but we were not using this to articulate the value of joining this group. My point in sharing that was twofold. One is to illustrate that while I've been thinking about this for a long time, I hadn't summoned the courage or the verve or whatever it is to actually go get that information from our customer base. Also, Hopefully, it was a way where you can start thinking about your own value that you provide and where it falls among these 40 elements of value to help you articulate that better. So I would encourage you leaders listening now to really audit your own customer experience and listen in on these sales conversations that lead to new business. Evaluating the communication quality and the vocabulary that we use, because if it is not rich like it is within these elements of value, it's possible that we are inadvertently sounding like all your competitors. We're all saying the same things, literally. And by understanding this pyramid and these elements of value, every interaction can either move you up the pyramid or push you back down more towards commoditization. Now, you, me, and John Ruskin, we all know this, that the companies that win long-term in construction are rarely the cheapest. These are the companies that are the most thoughtful, that are the most specific. We reduce friction, we reduce risk, we increase confidence and safety, and we consistently create value that customers can actually feel. And that's the true power of a brand. However, in the absence of value, you and I know this as well. Buyers will reliably focus on price. So the question all of us leaders should be asking is relatively simple, but not easy. What specific value or combinations of value are we creating and delivering and confirming that we are capturing that in the form of increased margin that we know our customers love and our competitors cannot easily replace? That's all I've got, friends. Thank you for listening. I would strongly encourage you to go to our show notes to download this B2B Elements of Value from Bain and Company. Go visit their website as well. It is interactive. For each one of the 40 elements of value, they will give you a definition of what that is, as well as an example from some company that you more than likely have already heard of. And yes, of course, I will close out with our leadership mantra. You, my friend, are owed nothing. Deliver value. First, make it a great week.